Yo guys, welcome back to the Transfer Daily YouTube channel, and today we are actually doing an individual video. There will be a transfer update out later on other clubs, but I am doing an individual one on Aston Villa. So all the stories virtually revolving Aston Villa at the moment, and I'm going to go through each one and give you the update on it. So starting off with John Duran, and John Duran will join Al Nassr. All documents have been prepared now, and as we know, for Al Nassr it was between John Duran and Victor Boniface, and I said in yesterday's video that John Duran is a preferred target, and that is what's happening. Aston Villa do receive €77 million as a fixed fee plus add-ons, so the deal there is done, and for Aston Villa it was always John Duran is up for sale because Ollie Watkins is the main man for them. But the contract will be a 5.5 year contract for John Duran, so until 2031, and this has already been accepted, and his medical, as we know, took place today, and he did complete the medical, so he does now fly to Saudi Arabia, and he will be Cristiano Ronaldo's new striker partner. So there we are, John Duran does leave the club. So from out of nowhere last night, some big breaking news, and that is Ollie Watkins and Arsenal. So Arsenal put a bid in for Ollie Watkins, as we know. It was around 60 million, and this bid was sent by Arsenal yesterday, which was immediately rejected by Aston Villa. And as we know, Aston Villa weren't happy with the timing of the bid and also the bid. So there we are. So what is going on now? Will Arsenal return? And what I can say is that Arsenal are expected to approach Aston Villa again, and a new bid could be sent. This isn't a guarantee, but they will approach Villa again, and a new proposal you would think is going to have to be around 70 to 80 million, because Aston Villa currently do not want to sell Ollie Watkins, and it will be very tough. So from what I would say, for Watkins to leave in January with the remaining days left is either an astronomical bid from Arsenal, which isn't going to happen, or Ollie Watkins pushing for the move. And we know Ollie Watkins is an Arsenal fan, but Watkins is also very happy at Aston Villa. But Arsenal believe if they can agree a fee with Villa that they can convince Ollie Watkins. But we have to wait and see. But Unai Emery wants Watkins to stay, and they are expected, Aston Villa, to reject the new approach from Arsenal, which is set to be made in the next days, to see if they can try and get a move. So Ollie Watkins, from my point of view, is expected to stay. But now we're going to look at options that Villa are looking for to bring in as a replacement for John Duran. So we know they've already signed Donyell Marlon, but now John Duran is left, they will be looking to bring in a new forward. And first of all, I'm going to talk about Matthias Tel. So Aston Villa are interested in Tel, and they have asked for the conditions of a deal. So we know there's many clubs interested. Tottenham currently really pushing for the signing, but Chelsea are still there. Manchester United and Villa have asked for the conditions. And for a permanent transfer for Matthias Tel, you're looking at 50 to 60 million euros. So for me, Tel is definitely an option being assessed by Villa, but the two names who I'm going to mention at the moment are probably the more likely targets that Villa will move for. Obviously, I've spoken about João Felix and Aston Villa before, and the new update is that Aston Villa could really attack the transfer of Felix now that John Duran's gone, because we know they've got a big chunk of money there now to spend for John Duran's departure, and also PSR that will ease it off a bit. So from what I know at the moment, Chelsea prefer a permanent departure for João Felix for around 40 million. So Chelsea really want to not lose a player, but if it comes down to it, a permanent for around 40 million is being assessed. And this is now seen as possible by Aston Villa. So what I would say on Felix is that it's quite a tough deal to get done because of Chelsea's stance on the player. And a few weeks ago, it has seen Chelsea are open to a loan, and now it seems to be that they're open to a loan with an obligation, or a permanent transfer. So it's a tough deal to get done, but as we know, Unai Emery rates a player very high, and he's been pushing for him since last summer, and it is one to watch João Felix with Aston Villa until the deadline. And especially depending on what Chelsea do, because if Chelsea sign Matthias Tal or Alejandro Garnacho, which is two options that are still could happen, but as we know, time is running out. So Aston Villa and João Felix, there is a new update on that one. And just some latest news now on the other player who I'm going to mention, and it is Marco Asensio. And I reported on Twitter at the start of the month that Marcus Asensio is high up on the list of Aston Villa and a move could be made. And this one is an easier deal to get done than João Felix. And Aston Villa are in talks with PSG over Asensio. He's high up on the list, as I said weeks ago, and he is alongside João Felix as a possible options. And I know that for Villa fans, you probably want to sign Asensio and Felix, but from what I know, they will aim to sign at least one of the players. So to sign both is only possible if Chelsea allow a loan for João Felix. So at the moment, it is just one of them two that's likely to be there. And Asensio's deal is much easier to get done, as I've just said. But also the difference between Felix and Asensio. With João Felix, on the player side at the moment, there's been little to non-progress. There's been talks, but Felix hasn't given Aston Villa a lot of encouragement. From Asensio's side, Asensio would be very keen on a move to Aston Villa. And also a cheap deal as well, because obviously he isn't in the plans for PSG at the moment, and his contract expires in 2026. So Asensio is much easier to get done. Aston Villa are in talks with PSG. Let's wait and see what Aston Villa really active in the last days of the transfer window.